preferences. So like geography, and like what kind of device you're listening on. So even just a little music data is helpful.
Oh my God, that's so sad. Right, so Spotify has dynamic ad insertion. So when you stream a podcast, they can stop it and put in whatever ad. Like they can target an ad.
Oh, streaming ad insertion, yeah.
We have dynamic ad insertion. I feel like I have to disclose that our podcast is served by Megaphone, which is owned by Spotify.
Yeah.
I've never even seen the Megaphone interface. Andrew, our engineer and producer, I'm sure he's had to look at it a lot. But like, there's your disclosure. Disclosure is our brand. But that's Spotify buying up the entire tech stack of podcasts so they can make this ad play. But right next to it, Ashley, I think you're saying like the data has been historically so bad that even just knowing that you like Beyonce is like better.
It's helpful
than advertising in Apple Podcasts.
And your age, gender. I mean, not to get too into the ad stuff, but I mean, what's interesting is like the reason why Rogan is also especially lucrative is because the dude sells a ton of crap. Like, if you're an advertiser and you advertise on Rogan, like, he's huge for you. Like, he moves product. And so...
He moved ivermectin.
There you go. So people, like, really seek him out as an advertiser, which, you know, they need to really get people in the door. And then when you buy ads on Rogan, you have to buy ads on the rest of the Spotify podcast catalog. So they're really using him to just, like, jumpstart this operation.
I want to go back to the concept that they needed Joe Rogan to get leverage, to get on platforms that aren't Apple, given that isn't their primary competitor in the music space, Apple.
Yeah, I mean, it's what Nilay said. Like, and this is something I actually wrote about this week is, like, RSS. Joe Rogan's been around forever. Like, all of this came about because people want to moderate Joe Rogan now that he's getting paid reportedly $100 million from Spotify. And, like, prior to this deal, RSS has allowed him to be distributed basically everywhere other than Spotify. And no one ever really, like, spoke up about him. Maybe a little bit. It was considered controversial, but it never kind of reached its fever pitch. And so Spotify kind of brought this issue upon themselves specifically to gain this leverage and close off the ecosystem to gain a competitive leg up on competition. So, but they would say they're just a platform.
But I just don't understand why they were like, we have to, like, I just don't get why they needed the leverage of this one podcaster.
Well, it's the entire exclusives. It's all the exclusives, not just Rogan. Okay. But, like, if you like Rogan or you like Heavyweight or whatever from Gimlet, and it's not available through your Alexa device, you might start being pissed and be like, where's my Rogan?
They got the, like, modern-day Howard Stern. I mean, isn't his show, like, listened to by, like, more of, like, than all cable primetime combined? Like, his reach is massive.
It's, like, pretty safe to assume tens of millions. They say he's the #1 podcaster in 93 markets.
Yeah, I mean, they got Howard Stern. I mean, they went for the top and they got it. So it's, I mean, I can see why they did it. They wanted the best in terms of reach, in terms of, you know, numbers. Not saying best in terms of content, but...
If Harry and Meghan had delivered their podcast last year, would we still be in this position we're in right now?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, you know how there's, like, shockwaves before an earthquake?
Yeah.
The tremors before this earthquake were, like, a bunch of stories that were like, what happened to all those podcast deals that Spotify signed?
I mean, my entire author page right now is Spotify stories, and not just because of Rogan. It was they shut down an in-house studio. I've written about, like, programmatic ads kind of going wrong on their platform. Like, it's been building.
So they've got this big business, and we haven't talked about the platform versus publisher thing because...
I want you to.
The headache that it's causing for me.
We talked about it last week.
We did, but now we know. Like, we have this, like, line from Mac that, honestly, just exhausted. Like, my jaw is clenching just thinking about it. But I just want to finish the podcast business thing. What's fascinating to me in connecting it to Facebook is... like, their service is built on renting music that everyone else can rent. And they do it, like, artists are mad at Spotify. Artists don't make any money, right? This is why Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and whoever else can just, like, bail. But they have no differentiation there except for, like, user experience, right? And playlists, and potentially your friend lists and network effects and whatever. But, like, kind of who cares? But this is still the most competitive market in tech that I can think of. Like, when I joke that YouTubers, like, the end point of every YouTuber's life cycle is a video about how they're mad at YouTube, like, they're still on YouTube. They can make that video, and they can, right? And then they have to make a big decision about what kind of life they want to live, and they all say on YouTube. We get mad at Facebook, and maybe it took, 4 years of sustained negative Facebook stories for them to lose 1 million daily actives in a quarter, and we feel like that's going to take the business. That's like still not a huge effect.
No, and it's not that 1 million is not even really because of the PR. I mean, I'm sure the PR has a role in it, but the products just are getting irrelevant in terms of the way it's designed for younger people. I mean, that's like the hard truth. That may be an unpopular view of it, but I don't think it was the PR that led to the 1 million.
Right. So it's still like, right, but it's Spotify, like, and you can just go down the list. Like, you're mad at Google search? I'm sorry. Like, enjoy paying.
That's not going away.
Spotify's one where if you're mad, you can go.
Yeah, and there's competition, right? I mean, that's the
Like,
difference.
in perfect competition.
Yeah, and that's the difference between, Apple and Google and Spotify and Meta, right? The way, like, platforms versus, this is like very Ben Thompson-y, but like his whole thing is platforms versus aggregators. Companies that aggregate attention are much more vulnerable to this kind of stuff, to competitive pressures than platforms, that lock people into their platform. And Spotify's not a platform.
It's a publisher.
All right, then we have to talk about it. I just wanted to make that point. Like, they are trying to build this walled garden podcast ecosystem because it is the thing that protects them from competition, and it's the thing that protection gives them leverage to distribute the app on all these platforms that would otherwise just say, like, you want music in your Tesla, just pay us the money, and all the music will be here. Or you want music on your Amazon Echo, pay us $4 a month, and we'll give you an Amazon Music subscription to it. That's what Amazon would prefer. That's why they have that plan. But Spotify's saying, well, you want what these people want is Joe Rogan, and they're already paying for us, and they're going to be mad at you if you ask them to pay again. So I just, like, from a business perspective, I think it's fascinating. From a moral perspective, the platform versus publisher thing is just such pure corporate both sides nonsense. First of all, just definitionally, Spotify is not a platform. I dare you to try to upload some shit to Spotify.
This is the lawyer Nilay I was waiting for.
Like,
let's go.
You cannot do it. Like, how do you cannot do it. You have to go through some intermediary. There's one place where you can upload stuff to Spotify. It's Anchor, their user-generated podcast platform that has the programmatic ads problem and mostly has ads for Anchor running on it, according to Ashley's reporting.
Yes.
That's it. That's what they got. That's their user-generated content. I'm guessing that's where, when they're like, we took down 20,000 episodes, I'm guessing those are all Anchor podcasts. Everything else is ingested through a Megaphone or some other distribution service, right?
Yeah, through a hosting platform. But, like, the key thing in this case with them is that they're paying Rogan.
Well, so they're paying Rogan, but, like, they also own The Ringer, and they own Gimlet, and they had this deal with the Obamas. Like, do you think the people at The Ringer are just like, we are owned by a platform and we have complete editorial? No, they work for a company. The company is liable for what they publish. The people at Gimlet, it's exactly the same deal. If you were to, if Joe Rogan said something horribly defamatory towards someone, that person isn't going to Spotify's just a platform. No, they're going to sue Spotify too. And I just don't think they see that accountability because they say they're a platform, and it's just nonsense.
I mean, I think they see that accountability. I think that's why they say they're a platform, right? Like,
yeah, I'm sure they understand the argument and where it puts them.
Well, can I read the line that makes my jaw clench? Spotify doesn't fit neatly into just one category, said Daniel Ek. Quote, we are defining an entirely new space of tech and media. We're a very different kind of company, and the rules of the road are being written as we innovate.
That's a lie. The road was paved. Sorry, the road was paved like a decade ago. Netflix has paved the road. There are so many other companies that have paved the road, and Spotify doesn't get to just act like it's new to kind of divert attention from the fact that they paid a man $100 million, and now he says really stupid things that destroy Nilay's love of the Green Bay Packers. Like, they don't get to. They don't get to.
I
just
know
make
that
up.
Aaron did not perform well in that game because he was distracted by the noise. I'm just saying I should be very excited about the Super Bowl, and I'm not. Eck did say this about Rogan, and this, I get this. If you do run a platform, you have to say this from time to time. Eck said this about Rogan. There are many things Joe Rogan says that I strongly disagree with and find very offensive. Okay. I think the idea that you're going to sign this exclusive deal to distribute something on what you consider to be a platform and then not accept the editorial choice you have made to take that thing because you need it to support your business goals is a total cop-out. I completely understand the business goals. You need leverage to get distribution for your app, which would otherwise be undifferentiated from everyone's content catalog. And you've got to build this advertising business around podcasts because the 15% of all the money you make on user fees for music have to go back to the artist. Like your margins are compressed forever.
Yeah, but
those are deals that are just written.
Neil, you're coming at this as an editor-in-chief. Daniel Ek is the CEO of a tech company. That he doesn't think of himself as all this discussion about Joe Rogan. I've been listening to a lot of it, not even just this podcast. We in the media are obsessed with this because we're obsessed with responsibility and the responsibility you have to put good information out into the world and the checks that come with that. And these companies don't see themselves as that. And even if they experiment with it, it's not their North Star. It's taking responsibility for the things that people on their platform say.
Okay. If you have an app or anything or a different international computer network company, Spotify or anything that is going to be a platform to put things like podcast or any news or anything, they're all going to get paid and they get in there somehow and they get paid and you get paid. Everybody get 50-50 for the company or for the place, for the where you at, TikTok or whatever, you be famous or you're not, or this, that, and the other. How can China be the technology of the world? How can China win? Because America won't let them have Google or a search engine or something like this or like that or anything European or Australian, New Zealand. We don't win. We don't know how International Computer Network works. Okay, the next episode, please.
This Marketplace Tech podcast is sponsored by...
Okay, it's now the tech podcast. But you must be nice to one another. Be a good family, please.
Axonius. The Axonius cybersecurity asset management platform correlates asset data from existing solutions to provide an always up-to-date inventory, uncover gaps, and automate action, giving security and IT teams the confidence to control complexity.
In Europe are sending U.S. businesses scrambling. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace Tech. I'm Kimberly Adams. Saying a major push in the port's web traffic violated French civilians' rights. That is why digital privacy rules in Europe are sending U.S. businesses scrambling. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace Tech. I'm Kimberly Adams. Last week, a French court found a local company's use of Google Analytics, which tracks and reports web traffic, violated French civilians' rights. That decision mirrored a ruling in Austria just a month before. It's part of a larger push in the European Union to manage how American companies use European residents' data. The EU and the U.S. had an agreement saying American companies and laws provided adequate protections for European user data. But in July of 2020, European courts severed that pact, saying the agreement didn't provide enough protections from surveillance. Negotiations for a new deal are ongoing. Caitlin Fennessy is Vice President of the nonprofit International Association of Privacy Professionals. She says because of recent court decisions abroad, the pressure is on for companies and negotiators.
The need for these data transfers is growing while the compliance options to allow them is shrinking rapidly. A lot of these rules were built around commercial protections, but as we all know, companies truly can't control the laws that govern surveillance. And so there is a bit of a challenge here where companies are being called on to address challenges that truly governments need to work together to solve on the surveillance side.
What does the current state of play mean for how a company like Google operates in Europe?
It means that the risk profile that companies are facing right now is just a lot higher. Now, basically, the first two enforcement actions that we saw come out of Europe around Google Analytics are the first two decisions in 101 cases that were framed similarly across Europe. So we can expect in the weeks and months ahead to see dozens of additional enforcement actions come down similarly. Importantly for businesses, I think, the risk is not just of enforcement, but the risk is that their EU partners will themselves recognize the heightened risk that they face as this enforcement cascades and pull back from partnerships with U.S. partners.
With these decisions coming down, companies kind of scrambling, what do all these recent developments mean for the ongoing negotiations between the U.S. and the EU for a potential new agreement?
There's no question that these latest enforcement actions just turn the ratchet in terms of the pressure that everyone faces here. Both sides, the U.S. and the EU, do not want to see another framework fall, and I think we can all expect it will be challenged nearly immediately, and so they're working to build something that will hold up and will be sustainable.
Yeah, and I mean, with all these decisions coming down, are companies proactively making any changes to try to get ready, or are they sort of in a wait-and-see moment?
They have been proactive. They've been conducting transfer impact assessments and looking at options to localize and build data